You're live. You may be live. I never know if I'm live. It says I'm live. Okay. Uh, this is kind of an unscripted, last minute sort of video. The I guess I'll start not talking about the movie so much as talking about my childhood, I guess it more. This was one of those films that I was not allowed to see before a certain age. And then it was one of those movies that wasn't really on, like, we didn't have cable yet, or it wasn't on TV very often. I remember seeing Jaws 2 like 8 million times for some reason, even though there's like literally no plot. And Jaws 3 a couple times. I wasn't allowed to see quite a few of the cultural landmark movies of the mid to late 70s until much later. Actually, I didn't see Saturday Night Fever, but everybody knew the dance and that kind of thing. But a guy, jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge or something, so I wasn't allowed to see that. Long after younger kids had already seen the thing, and other movies like that. My parents weren't super strict, but they weren't super like anything goes either. Okay, so like it was kind of a hit and miss what I would see. Like I saw Apocalypse Now a bunch of times when I was 10 or something, probably, but I didn't see Jaws until college, probably, or maybe I saw it once sooner. Anyway, but kind of a funny story. I worked with a guy for a couple of years. He was very much like Quint. Like he wasn't in the Navy, he was in the Marines. So maybe to him, Quint was a wuss. but it was kind of funny because yeah, he definitely had the same demeanor, the same kind of attitude about how to approach a job, how to do a thing. Not on a boat, but definitely worked in a place where he was kind of the top dog and you weren't going to really question him too much about, the methods and things. And this movie had come on that summer or whatever. This was plenty of years ago now. And so I don't know if that was the first time I saw it, but it seemed like the first time I had seen it, or at least the first time I had seen it in a long time. And I brought it up to him thinking, we were going to have this great conversation about the characterizations or the film. And all he said was, "That's the stupidest movie I've ever seen." So, really? Jaws? The movie everybody, Kevin Smith, I think, could talk for 3 hours about this movie right now. If I, if I had Kevin Smith here to interview, it would be like, "Oh yeah, Jaws." I don't know. So yeah, that didn't actually happen. So I don't have anything insightful to add from him. but yeah, I think I think we just kind of take the movie for what it is. It has, again, Jaws 2 having no real plot except shark is chasing kids. Kids want to get away, right? This one, they're actually chasing the shark. So man bites dog. And the first half of the film is all like a setup to that, the horror angles with the camera point of view thing and all that. So I don't know that there's too much we would necessarily change about the first half. Now, back then, I think the parents seemed a little old for how old their children are, but these days that's pretty normal. And, the idea that they left New York or whatever for safer environs and then find themselves in, a serial killer kind of plot, murder mystery, but but you already have the one guy saying this was no boating accident pretty early on, so it's not quite the total 50s horror movie where they, run to the mayor, hey, something's wrong. No, you're crazy kids, or, It's not quite as exaggerated as that. He does argue with the mayor, of course, and the mayor has like the cool anchor jackets and that kind of thing. You know, he's very boaty, without being, you know, nautical himself. And, you know, the beach scenes. Let's just take a moment to reflect on the worst acting of all movie history ever. Hey, there's a shark. Hey, there's a shark. There's a shark. Like, like that's not necessarily something you need to change in the script. That's something you need to change in the casting. It's maybe hire an actress who can deliver a 4-word line with any sort of believable inflection. Yeah, I don't know who's worse than her, except for maybe the kid who played Anakin Skywalker, but he's like 4 years old at the time. She's 20 or something. So, like, yeah. Don't know if that was somebody's cousin or how. I have another, I mean, I've worked with actresses briefly on things where it was very wooden and they couldn't do a simple gesture to point at the product and then say a lot, you know. But this was not a professional in a pretty big budget film. This was, you know, an amateur thing for a contest, you know, type of thing. Yeah, and it was really actually easier to recast her apparently because we just took her out and brought in that other girl who was standing in the back because she was the dance instructor or whatever, and she could actually move and deliver a line. Yay, problem solved. So how is a shark? Is a shark got that job? I don't know. I won't speculate on the casting couch aspect of things, but that might have been something to do with it. Who knows? Somebody will come forth. The one thing that we've heard about, you know, is the one gal in the previous scene who got yanked by all the ropes apparently had all sorts of back problems and stuff. And that was, you know, a problem. But again, not something you need to change in the script so much as something you need to change in the execution or a stunt double or whatever. Yeah. So where does Jaws kind of fall apart? Apart from just being the stupidest movie I ever saw. Which, could you go into detail as to why? Because maybe you have a different reason for why it was stupid than I might. It's not until we get pretty deep into the film. I mean, there's some weird parts. Like, you've got all these New England boaty guys who've been in the water since before their grandpas were born, and they've never heard of a tiger shark before. A tiger shark? What's that? Yeah, maybe a little. I think they'd be giving him the lectures on what a tiger shark is and what it can do to you. Maybe not the stuff about the bite radius and all that kind of thing, but I'm pretty sure these guys know what a tiger shark might do, you know, or be, or is, or whatever. Again, well, this is where Shark Week comes in handy. I don't watch Shark Week. I've watched it a few times. It's mostly redundant. But so, yeah, there was the one where they made the metal jaws of the tiger shark that show how it operates different than a great white shark. So, yay. Okay, that, you know, 30 years too late, right? Or whenever that came out. When did Jaws come out? 75, 76? And that episode of Shark Week probably came out in the mid-2000s. So, yeah, I think my math is close on that. So, and this is not quite, yeah, the otherwise we could say, oh, it's the anniversary, like that matters to me at all. No, not at all. Shark Week just being kind of an, you know, it's just sort of there. For me, it just displaces the one program that I mostly watch, which of course is The Catch. You all watch The Catch, right? I don't know if you don't. I don't know why not. I don't know why it started so late this year. If we're going to get a really short season as opposed to some of those mega seasons we were getting a couple years ago. Obviously, we've had some cast changes, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go off on this endlessly, I promise. I'm going to talk about Jaws more. Okay. But, you know, hey, it's all tied in, right? And since hardly anybody watches these film videos, I can just have fun with it. And maybe this will go another 10 minutes, maybe it won't. So anyway, so we get what's a shark? It's a tiger shark. Oh, I don't know. I never heard an what? A tiger shark, yeah. So yeah, there was some, good facts mixed in with some good action and, yada yada. And we got the heightened drama of the family and the kid on the boat and the Kinter boy and the this and the that. And there was a couple awkward scenes in there that maybe could have been like, why is the woman blaming the sheriff instead of the mayor? Roy Scheider gets the slap, but she's grieving, so misdirected anger is pretty common. That's not that big of a plot hole or anything. The mom and the little boy in the boat and their kind of little back and forth arguments about this and that, none of that's really problematic. All that pretty much, works. The older boy, and the and the rowing guy, another kind of awkward towny scene. Hey, you kids need any help? No, they didn't need the help. Apparently you needed the help, but it works. Again, more of a casting maybe thing than a script issue. But then when we get toward the end, and it turns into the Quint versus Hooper more than Quint versus the shark or anything kind of thing. Like, some of that works, and then some of that is kind of weird, like, because he knows that Hooper knows the boat. Hooper drives the boat, Chief, and that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, Quint's the one who's going to burn out the bearings of his own boat, being overzealous, and Hooper's the one telling him, hey, you're going to blow up your boat. No, I won't. Yeah, a little bit, but I think, would this movie be better if Hooper's the one who gets eaten, down in his cage or something? Oh, well, he shouldn't have gone down in that stupid contraption. Could have told you what was going to happen there. And of course, if you've watched any of the bonus footage, you already know that they just had that footage and they had to rewrite it or write it in such a way to structure it so they could put that in, because that was the best shark footage they have, was this great white stuck in a stupid thing. And then they even used a different guy for the goggles scene close up, right? Insert. But the big Hooper scene when he goes down, he finds the guy's cranium staring back at him, and he freaks out and drops his knife. And is like, I thought that was a little overdone. Like, Hooper doesn't freak out when he's cutting open a shark and pulling out license plates and junk, but all of a sudden he's squeamish. No! Like, okay, maybe dial that back a little bit, but obviously that's a plot point because he has to lose the evidence, so they can't prove it to the mayor, yada, yada, yada. Okay, fine, whatever. I think that's when they're worried a little bit more about the plot than necessary, because it's like, what's that guy who's barely an inconvenience, right? It's like, yeah, 1 second it's in, but then the next second Quint gets the money and everything, and they're going out in the boat anyway. It was just so they could argue with the mayor for 30 seconds about whatever. Yeah, like I said, there's a kind of a rough bit there, and a couple of those deleted scenes you wish they had kind of maybe kept in, and then some of the other ones maybe shortened or trimmed or something. Quint with the chalkboard is, just, but Quint screaming at the little kid in the music store or whatever, a little bit more about his personality than whatever. So yeah, obviously, the big climactic bit is, Hooper gets away, Quint dies, because, as the essay that I read many years ago in some film class where I think we read about Jaws but didn't actually watch it, if memory serves. I don't know. I remember reading an essay somewhere where it talked about how, this was the 70s, explaining to us that, macho men were going to go out, but kind of macho men like Roy Scheider were going to be the new equilibrium. And, the nerdy guy like Hooper is still not quite going to be able to solve all our problems, but we're going to form an alliance here. And, all these crusty old curmudgeon guys will go the way of the dinosaur, or whatever. But nowadays, Roy Scheider's character would be just as curmudgeonly as Quint, really, right? I mean, what is he? He's a guy who doesn't like the boat. He doesn't like the water. He has a pistol. you know, he's, there's nothing gentle and sensitive enough about him anymore. Where you would find, Quint in, I don't know, are there Hollywood actors who could fill that role anymore? I have no idea. I haven't watched hardly any new movies in, well, what did I see because the theaters were closed for a minute there, and then when they reopened, there was almost nothing that I would pay to watch. That's a topic for another video, perhaps. So yeah, I don't know I don't know. Like I said, I didn't really go into this except more of a Shark Week theme fun video than really analyzing all the points of Jaws that could be, changed or tightened or nuanced or whatever. Obviously, again, I think part of my old cranky man complaint was probably the idea that you put 3 barrels on this shark and it's pulling your boat apart. Yeah, maybe. It's not a bigger boat, right? Yeah. I don't think too many, because then the shark does end up staying up after that. The 3rd barrel is, its limit, so it doesn't not affect the shark swimming anymore. Why the shark is prowling around them so much in the middle of the night, maybe just because they've eliminated most of the food source, I guess. Ben Gardner and whoever else isn't out on the dock with the pot roast and all that. Don't know. Like I said, it's not the kind of deep questions you really need to have while you're watching the movie. It's kind of like, do you believe it or you don't, kind of thing. Like I said, most of everything that happens in the first half is to get us onto the boat chasing the shark. So we kind of have to let some of it go by. And then what happens on the boat, like, I guess either you love it or you hate it, right? Like I said, though, I wonder, Quint has supposedly been doing, again, like same as those other guys, what's a tiger shark? Quint has been doing this for 900 billion years, and he knows, all about sharking and porkers and yada, yada, yada. You'd think he'd have more in his arsenal than a bolt-action rifle and a... well, let's see what your gadgets can do. Like, okay. Like, I think we would see his gadgets fail first, and then he would say, see, you just need a rifle, because like I said, we end up with Roy Scheider with just a pistol at the end anyway. Well, then he grabs the rifle and the helium tank, or whatever, oxygen tank. So yeah, I don't know. Would have been funny if it was helium. I'm a very high-pitched voice shark. Yeah, that was for you. So yeah, anybody have any suggestions? Like I said, I was just goofing around when I decided to film this, so it is what it is. And yeah, I think we'll call it. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments.